Um, JSP full form is Java Server Pages, and since we use Java technology to develop or write the code in this server pages, that is the reason it is called Java Server Pages. And actually, these Java Server pages run on server. They're server-side components like the servlets get executed. So let's get started with the introduction and then see how we can use JSPs in development of web applications. Okay. So a little introduction is JSPs are nothing but HTML pages, and you use all HTML tags, which whatever you use in HTML tags, we use the same kind of tags in JSPs also. So you will be familiar with the tags that I'm going to use initially, and then we'll move on to some advanced tags which are specific to JSPs. Okay, so and then extra tags to display data coming from the server as response are nothing but the tags which we write in JSP pages to render the response and show some result on the screen. So for that we actually need more than HTML tags. That is nothing but some action tags. And the file extension, as we all know, it would be .jsp, and that's it. Another 2 points. So now the extension we already know it's .jsp, right? So these actually run on server, not not on the these are not static pages. So that is the reason they're called Java server pages which run on server. Okay, and in the same way servlets we used, right, to develop a web application. In the same manner, JSPs are also used to develop web applications, and the main advantage of JSPs is whenever you write some code, you don't need to deploy the whole web application again. You can just refresh the page, and the page will display the results there and there itself. And the other advantage is you can render the, I mean, you can write Java code, you can write the business logic here, you can write uh, the action tags to render the result that is coming from the server. Okay, so and we have so many predefined tags, expression language, and custom tags in JSP that makes JSP development easy. Okay, and basically, see, if you look at the MVC architecture, uh, where model will be the data object which will be transferred between browser and server, and the second one is controller. Controller is the part where the response is generated and sent back to the view, that is view in MVC. So the view in the sense is nothing but JSPs and HTML pages. Since we're talking about JSPs, we concentrate more on JSPs. So what the industry standard is saying is JSP should not contain the business logic or any other logic that you are trying to execute depending on the project requirements. So all the JSP should have, all that JSP should have is just the presentation logic. Presentation logic is nothing but what to show on the page, not the business logic. So what to show on the page should be done in JSP. But initially, since we are in a development, I mean, we are learning how to use JSP, right? So we'll be looking at Java code also. So basically, Java code is not recommended in JSPs because JSPs are purely used to represent or only for viewing purpose, not for business logic or for rendering purpose of the business logic. Okay, so that are the things you need to keep in mind while working with JSPs. So and before talking about life cycle of JSP, one point that I need to underline here is JSPs are nothing but servlets when they get executed. That means, for example, if you request for a JSP and it shows you a result saying some form field. Okay, say for example, uh, availability of clients list. Okay, so that clients list is coming after the JSP is executed in the sense it is not just executed on the server. The JSP has a proper life cycle, and before the proper life cycle is converted, I mean is executed, the JSP is converted into a servlet. A servlet is nothing but a Java class, so where it has some predefined methods which are coming from the API. So the translation will happen in the first life cycle. So that is very, very important that you have to keep in mind. Okay, so first life cycle method is the translation. So the translation, what is happening here is the JSP is actually converted into the same name to a .java file, which is nothing but a servlet. Okay, and then the JSP compilation is done. Compilation is done because since it's a Java file, we need the .last file to be loaded into the memory. So that is the reason compilation is done. And at the same time, we'll check for any syntactic whether the code is syntactically correct or not. Okay, and after that, the class loading will happen. Loading is nothing but loading the bytecode into the memory, whatever .last file is updated. So that class file, the .last file will be loaded into the memory of JVM, and then instantiation will be happening as it happened for servlet. So object of the generated servlet is created. So for the particular servlet, whatever is created, we will create an object for it, and initialization is happening. So like in servlet, we have different kinds of methods, right? Init method, service method, get servlet info, get servlet config, destroy method. So in the same manner, when the JSP is converted into servlet, there are some predefined methods which will be created by Tomcat. So one of the methods is JSP init method. So this name says it will be called at the time of initialization. So it is correct. Likewise, in init method in servlet, we have JSP init method in JSP. So I mean, this convention is given by Java itself. So whenever a particular JSP is converted into servlet, then JSP init method will be overwritten in the corresponding servlet that has been converted from JSP. So JSP will be called at the time of initialization, and when the request processing should process the request, then underscore JSP service method will be invoked by the container. So again, the JSP service method is equal to the service method which we have in HTTP servlet. I mean, we have it in generic servlet and servlet interface. Oh, and JSP destroy method. So you might have understood, right, why the JSP is converted to servlet is most of the methods that are defined are similar, but these are specific to JSP and those are specific to servlet. So calling these methods will be taken care by the Tomcat itself. Now let's take a look at the flow of request in case of JSP. We have seen flow request in using servlet. We have seen a diagram, a small diagram which I made using MS Paint. So there you see it will come from browser to container, container to then web.xml file, web.xml file to one second. So web.xml file to servlet, and then servlet process the request and send back the response. So in the same way, we have the same flow, not the same flow I can say, but a couple of things are changed. But the request and response processing will be same. It will be done in service method. So once the browser sends the request to the container or to the server, first on the left hand side there's a blue button which is looking like computer, right? So that's a web browser wherein it is accessing a JSP. So what happens at the first time according to our life cycle? The JSP is converted into a servlet where the uh, compilation, loading of the class file, instantiation, initialization are actually happening, and then that class file will be loaded into the memory as JRD. And what happens? The object will be created with the help of instantiation, and then automatically the JSP underscore JSP service method will be called to process the request, and the response is sent back to the browser directly. Okay, so this is how a simple flow request is happening in JSPs. Okay, JSP, some important points. JSP translator is responsible for converting the JSP page into a servlet. Okay, so it comes along with the server, so it takes care of start converting JSP into servlet. So JSP is not part of web server. That is responsible to translate JSP into servlet. Okay, when you install Tomcat, you will get that option. You don't need to install any other thing. Okay. This is, you can ignore this. This has come from some place. So simple JSP is nothing but you write some HTML code in it and you save it as a .jsp extension, and you need to place that folder like we have done it in case of servlets, right? We place it in web apps, and in the same manner place it in web apps if you're doing it manually, and then start the server. So whenever you start the server, you can access the JSP. So this would be a simple JSP page. You see, I've mentioned that JSP page will definitely have the HTML tags, whatever are there already available, and some extra tags which are coming from JSP technology. Okay, so this is one simple example. You can say this HTML body, and then we have an out.print script where this is called a scriptlet. We'll see what are scriptlets in the next slide. So. And the next question that will be coming is how you can run, if not a Java file, how can you run the JSP file? So what you have to do is you have to start the server, put the JSP file, whatever you have designed it in your deployment folder, which would be web apps from your Tomcat installation, and in the same way that like you follow for a servlet, you do the same thing for JSP also. All the difference is you just don't write it in the web.xml file if it is available outside WebInf. Okay, so this would be the JSP directory structure. JSP directory structure in the sense, if there are multiple JSPs, this is the way you can create. This can be set as one way to create JSPs in your web application. Some may contain some all that in WebInf folder, not outside WebInf. All the JSPs will be inside WebInf. So there are differences in this. You can place them anywhere you want, but all you have to know is where are they located when you are configuring the web.xml file for the URL mapping or any other mapping file. Okay. So now Servlet API in the same manner we have Servlet API, right, where we have Java x.servlet.servlet, JSP generic servlet, JSP servlet. In the same way we have JSP APIs also, which are coming from Java x.servlet, excuse me, and JSP.target. So in the same way, there are some predefined classes which we're going to use, which are JSP writer, piece context, JSP factory, engine, info, exception, error, and there are so many classes I just listed down which we'll be using or which will come frequently. And you might be wondering what happens if the JSP is converted into a servlet. What is happening there? Who's calling the service? Who's calling the init method and all such stuff? But if you look at the JSP API diagram, HTTP JSP page is what is extending from JSP page, and JSP page is again implementing from a servlet interface, because we know servlet is an interface, and JSP page and HTTP JSP page are two new Java files which are in the hierarchy position. So just for your understanding, I've just placed this image, because the API, whatever we are saying, how it is happening in the sense is by looking at this diagram. Okay, so now let's look at the methods what are available in the JSPs, in the JSP technology. So after it's converted into servlet, the first one is JSP init method. So as like init method in servlet, this will be only called at the time of loading the byte class code into the memory, and then only once the instantiation is done. That means the object is created only once for any JSP or servlet in that matter. So the next one comes JSP destroyed. It is same way as the JSP init, but init is actually creating an object, but JSP destroy will pick up the object which is not referenced by any variable, and then garbage collector will remove the memory and free the memory for this. So that is the place where JSP destroy comes into picture. And we have JSP service. It is removed each time when the request from JSP comes from container. So this we all know that service is a method which is replaced by JSP service in JSPs. Okay, I mean replaced in this is not in servlets. this is the right way purpose I'm saying. Now we know what is the JSP is used for, what are the components, and we are not really seeing what are the components, but how it can be used we have seen. So we're going to look at the scripting tags. So the scripting tags are nothing but to display some value on a JSP or to write some business logic in a JSP. We use this three types of tags, which are scriptlet, expression, and declaration. Okay, so let's take a look at this next slide. So, and the other thing is these can be used to show some data on the user input. Till now, whatever we have seen, we are getting it from the service, right? Service layer line from Java, where we show some response and say hi, or show some cookie session tracking mechanism. All these things will happen. But if you want to show some dynamic data rendering or some business logic in your JSP, you can use these three kinds of tags. I mean, the names look very complex, but the functionality is very simple. So the scriptlet tag, what it does is it will give you an output, like show something on a message. If you want to show it using scriptlet tag, you can show it. But the problem is this will only have the static data. Unless you compare it with expression tag, you will not get the dynamic data. Okay, so the next one is the declaration tag. The declaration tag is nothing but how you can declare the page directives and all such stuff. Okay, so now first we'll look at one by one. Now we're looking at scriptlet tag. The scriptlet tag is actually used to execute Java source code. Like if you want to include some business logic inside your Java JSP file, then you need to, use scriptlet tag under scripting. Okay, so and the example is, and the syntax would be the line which is the third line in this slide, where it says Java source code. Opening and ampersand, I mean the percentile symbol. This is all included in the syntax. It is not just there for decoration. It is also the syntax. Okay, and Java source code could be anything that you want to write inside the JSP. Okay, and out.println is an again scriptlet where you print something onto the JSP. And how you can print it is you can use out.print and welcome to JSP. Okay, so we are first one scriptlet tags. We look at scriptlet tags first. I made this example. Now if you see in the script tag, he's actually getting a username from the first page and then displaying it with the help of out.print. So, and coming to the question, out.print is, out is a default variable which you will get. It's the same variable which we are getting it using print writer, but this time it is going to only get stored in the browser session itself. Okay, not to the service layer. So now what is the purpose of out in JS in servlets? It will help you print something in the other response if it is HTML. So in the same way, if you write something out.print, then it means that you want to show that particular element on the JSP page. Okay, so that is the reason. And look, pepper.xml file. This is just one file, one configuration which is saying whenever you log into the application, just show me the index.html. So we'll see what is there in the index.html. Okay, index.html has form, I'll input type, and I submit go. Whenever the button go is clicked, since it's a form, we are calling an action method and taking this URL so that this JSP will be called. Okay, so that is the reason I was showing you the first, but it's okay. So we know that the user has entered username in this page. Okay, username from this page, and that is the reason he's trying to get the username here and then store it and then show welcome whatever name it is. Okay, JSP is our application name that I named it like that. just to give something, and click on go. It's gone. What is it saying? JSP slash second JSP is not available. Second name change. It's the same. Let me stop the server, clean everything, and then restart again. If the error is still coming, then we can go to the next one where we are here actually using. Okay, I'm changing it in another project. Let's close all the projects and keep this JSP open, and then look at the code. Okay, node.xml, it is index.html, and in index.html we are submitting second.jsp. Okay, with the name go. Where is going to take to this page? Okay, now everything is clear. Second.jsp is there. The reason it is not showing up. HTML form action uh, uh, slash second.jsp, and then in second.jsp we have this, but it is not able to pick up. So what we'll do is okay, so we're saving a string here. What we'll do is we'll directly call this JSP node.xml file and then see how it works. Okay, now you see that particular JSP is actually rendered, and then you can see welcome Nagarjuna message is coming from the servlet. I mean, in the last example, we are just trying to pass the value to the other JSP, and it is not coming up because JSPs, even if you want to access it through the web, you have to configure it to a web.xml in the web.xml file. Okay, so now we are accessing it directly. So second.jsp is having an out.println. This is called scriptlet tag. We have seen that just now. So out.print, and then you print something that is called nothing but the scriptlet tag, and we were able to actually print whatever it is showing in the name value pairs. So now we have expressions. What are we have three kinds of things, right? One is scriptlet, one is expression, and one is the directive. Previous slide. Where is it? Declaration tag. Okay. So now we are going to look at scripted is done. That is it. We don't have any other thing in scriptlet. We have expression tag and declaration tag. We'll look at expression tag now. So expression tag is something which it tries to express something. So it is output stream of the response. That means it will, if you set some value to the expression, then it will show it on the JSP directly. So you don't need to write out.println to write data. So in the last example scriptlet, we have used out.println and then give the value to be printed. But here you don't need to do that. If you use the expression tag, which is nothing but just equal to, use look at the syntax of JSP expression tag is just give equal to whatever you want to show on the JSP. So it is mainly used to print the values of variable or method. So that is one thing. And I said this is like Java, but you don't end the expression tag, especially the expression tag, with a semicolon, stating that this is the end of my message in Java. But it's not the case with expression tags. You don't need to give colon or colon. So the declaration is the JSP declaration is used to declare fields and methods. We'll see that in the example. The code written inside the JSP declaration is placed outside the service method of auto. Okay. So and how you can declare is you can use the negation one here, which is using the as like a third character from the last line. So field or method declaration, you have to give some field or a method. Okay, we'll do expression here itself. we'll see the expression in a minute. So let's go and look at declarations. So declarations is nothing but the declaration and installation of the variables that you want to use in the JSPs. The code written in this JSP declaration is placed onto the service method for auto-generated servlet. Okay, so the expression with the syntax would be the curly braces and percentile and then the negation mark. So this will be used to create the declaration parts. So you might be thinking, what is the difference between scriptlet tag and declaration tag? So the scriptlet tag only declare variables, not methods. But whereas in declaration tag, you can define methods also, like a Java method. And the scriptlet tag is placed inside the underscore JSP service, but the declaration of JSP is outside the service of the JSP service method. So that is one difference. And coming to implicit objects are nothing but, as the name says, it is something which is given by the browser whenever there is some requirement of using that. For example, if you remember in last class, I mean, we have in not exactly last class, but long time ago, we have seen an example by using out.println, and what that is, you are already using the implicit variables and these error pages. So there's some that okay, there are totally 9 implicit objects. We'll look at them directly. We'll forget about whatever we have done using this implicit object. It will not recollect, it will not get recollected. So these objects are created by the web container that are available to all the JSP pages. So the container is responsible for creating this objects. They're basically predefined objects which will have some functionality inside it, and we can use them in our web applications to do some certain tasks depending on the task they does. Okay, so I've listed down all the implicit objects here. The first one is out variable, which is predefined by the container, and it will help you to write something onto the JSP, like we have seen it, right? Welcome Nagarjuna, that is using out only. So, and after that, the similar way we have request object, response object, config, application, session, page context, page, and exception. So these are very frequently used implicit objects, and they are same as the ones which we have in server technology. Like for example, if you take request object, it is actually the type of HTTP servlet request. So you know that it is a predefined object which we can get in the service method in the servlet side. In the same way, here also the request and response are same. And then the third one is config object. This will return me a config object of the servlet config, and from there we can call the context from there. I mean, it's your choice. Okay, you can call it or you don't call it. So application is just the scope, and session is HTTP session. We have seen yesterday, right? To save the sessions across all the request mapping. And page equal to an object. A page is used for the directives also. So exception is something which haven't been implemented here, but I'll show you with an example. Look at the exception. Okay, now we look at each one at a time and then discuss about it, and then go and see an example on it. So out variable is the first one that we're going to discuss. So for writing any data to the buffer is nothing but the buffer which is going to write into the JSP. You need to use out variable to bring the output onto the JSP pages. Okay, so in servlet, how do we do that? We use response.getWriter, and you get the printWriter object. You do out.println, and in the same way can use it in JSP also using scriptlets are nothing but again out.println, out.print, and it takes a string. So this will get printed on the UI page. Okay, so we have example on each one. So just come and see. We have a JSP where it is printing the today's date. Okay, so this will get me the today date. Now what I'll do is I'll place this in the example Okay, we're seeing that. Okay, now when I run this, this page will be converted into servlet, and then the servlet lifecycle process will be happening. And then when it is going to render on the JSP, this out.println is there, right? So this will be printed as a text file. So let's come here. If the server is started, then we can go ahead and get started. It's asking for restart. Okay, now you see using the scripted tag and the out variable. Scripted tag is nothing but where you use out variable. So the out variable is printing me today's date and time along with the timestamp. Okay, so this is called the usage of out, and use it most often to source some data on the UI, or you can say on the JSP. So now coming on to the next object, which is the request object, which is of type HTTP servlet request object. So it is created by the container itself, and for each JSP, you will have only one request object. I mean, not only one, depending on the traffic, how many requests are coming from this from the browser. So it all depends on that. But it can be used to get the request information such as parameter, header information, whatever you get using servlet config yeah, it has the information that we get, like from servlet config, you get the logical name, you get the class which is getting executed. So in the same manner, we have JSP request wherein it will give you the server name, it will give you the server port, content type, character encoding, etc., etc. Okay, and sometimes you can also use it to get and set some attribute forms to the request scope. So whenever you set some values to the request scope, whenever you're submitting from any page the same request, the scope where the variables were defined or actually sent back to the server. So now we have to see request object. Okay. Okay, we'll look at request 2, where we can see the request parameter being happening. So he's getting a request to get parameter and name, and is printing out the name whatever the user has entered in the first page. Okay, so this is with the request, and in the same manner we have response also. Okay, the response is also a type of HTTP servlet response. The instance is created by the web containers for each request, and the next point is actually saying that you can add or manipulate the response that is coming from the browser onto the JSP page whenever you want to change something, and then you can add some another resource and another resource or send some error. Okay, so this till now what we have done, we have created a HTML page with all the details that we get from this response, and send the HTML page as a response to the UI. But what is here happening here is we get the response from the browser to the UI. Then what we'll do is, if you want to filter anything else from the particular JSON object or any response, so we'll remove those things, and then we'll put some business logic in representing the response that has been come from the server. Okay, so next one is the config object. Config object is nothing but a servlet config object. With the help of servlet config object, you can get so many things. The first one is you can you can use it to get the initializing parameters from the web.xml file, like we have done in init method, or we have done it in the servlet class. Okay, and application is an implicit object of type servlet context. We have seen that what is servlet context capable of in web, in a basic servlet exercise. And so in the same way, this can be used across all the web application servers, I mean servlets. It will be the same value, whatever you want, whenever you want to call it. So again, this object will also be created by the web container, and whenever the project is deployed, since it's a context object, if you have mentioned already in the web.xml file, then it would have been picked up, and the object has been created by now. Okay, so now the object can be used to get the initializing parameters from configuration. It can also use to get, send, or remove attributes from application scope. Okay, so servlet context. So since servlet context is at application level, what it can do is it can add some variables to the application scope, or they can remove it.
అశ్విన్ దాంట్లో ఫుల్ కొడుతున్నారు.
దొరుకు
7.3 ఇప్పుడు 54 ఇప్పటికి.
ఇంకా యావరేజ్
34.3 151 for 4.
We have for
Yeah,
request,
6
we have for application config, for application implicit objects. Let's open all these things. Let's open web.xml file first. Okay. He's configuring two URL patterns. Whenever this URL pattern comes up, he has to call the servlet name, and he's calling submitter as well. Auto.println. This is an scriptlet where you are using auto.println, and the same one in the second value. So here, if you see, the web.xml file is present in the context param, and whenever you want to get it, get the context object, you can get it, and then application is like context, right? So you can get the object from that particular configuration, and then you can use it. So form action equal to welcome, there is a username, password, and then in welcome.jsp we are getting the username with the help of request implicit object, which is already available, and the same method that we have used in servlets, which is get parameter, and then we show message called welcome username. And then what happens afterwards, by using the application context scope, we are actually fetching the DNAME, which is configured in the web.xml file at context level. This is the one which we are trying to get it. Okay, so this is since this is a page context, this is the application context, so that is why we are looking at that. And the next one that is in the list is a session. So the session is exactly same as JSP session that we have done in servlets. Okay, you can add, remove, and set get values to the session information. Okay, you can play around with session information once you know how you can implement it. Okay, the page context. Page context is an implicit object, which will tell that this attribute is following one of the scopes below. The scopes are nothing but page, default, request, session, and application. Application, page context means whatever variable you define in that scope, the variable will be available everywhere. Okay, I mean in that project, I mean to say. And the last one, and the next one is exception implicit object. In JSP, exception is an implicit object which is of type java.lang, and so if you use this exception implicit object, then you need to give the page directive also. So now we have seen the basic things about all the things, right? We'll look at examples how they have written, okay, not executed. So in a separate XML file, you have the servlet mapping, param mapping, There's no welcome file here. That's okay. So anyways, we're looking at examples. But we suppose that it will come to index.html page, because the index.html page will be the starting point of every web application. So here we have a text box with the username and welcome as a URL pattern. So once you give that, the welcome.jsp will come into picture, because the request is coming to this JSP page. And then here, using the request config objects, we are getting the parameters. So the init parameter you're getting with configs. Config is nothing but the servlet config, and then out dot print writer is using to print the writer. Okay, so that is one thing. Using implicit object config, and the next one is application. Application we've already seen, it is equal to servlet context object, and servlet context object can be accessed from anywhere in the application, and you get the driver name whatever you save it there. Okay, so sorry for this. Let me close this. Okay, session as an attribute. We have created sessions using servlets in the same manner. We can do the same thing using Java, JSP. I mean, using Java and JSP. The first one is here again getting the username and then setting it to .println. And if you see session.get set attributes, where is the session coming from, or where is the request coming from, or where is the out coming from? So these are coming from the browser itself, since you have mentioned they are JSPs, and then you want to use the implicit object. Whenever you type them, JSP will automatically get them. Okay, so now session.set attribute is used to send the uh, request name value pair to the server, and from there it will come back to the browser. So it can go forward and come back to the same page. So this is where you can use session object, which is implicit one. So here he's getting this request object from again the index.html file and setting the attribute. So this is session, I guess, but we're looking at page context. Okay, let me open this. After seeing which one is the first one. Okay, this is the first one. So the username is coming from the index.html file, like other applications, and we are printing that out using outer.print welcome, whatever name it is, and then within page context, that means this is page context is the scope. So whenever you save something, you want to save something, you have to call set attribute method. You have to give a key and then the name and then what is the scope of the variable. Okay, so page context.session scope will have the variables where you can define the scope, and so this is how you can use page context, guys. I mean, it defines, if you define a scope which is universal, then then the variable you can access it from any JSP or any servlet. So that is the advantage of using page context and solutions. Okay, we have this exception. So the first one is you have to keep in mind, if you want to use an exception in your page, you have to mention this page directive is error page is equal to true or false. If you mention it as true, then the whole JSP will be converted into an error page. But if you just want to show a single error page, you can show it with the help of equal to exception. This could be considered as striplet taglet. So that's it. The implicit object is dependent on on the usage mostly. It's not just a theory but that I use it one time and then you go on use it for a number of times. So next one is directives. The directives are the messages that tell web client how to translate JSP. So here what is happening is, for example, in your JSP, if you want to include some other JSP, what should happen? How can you include that? So that is one advantage. Another one advantage is you can use tag libraries. Tag libraries are nothing but the third-party tag libs, or the Tomcat tag libs, or Tomcat Apache, Apache Tomcat server tag libs, which will be used to render the dynamic response onto the JSP page. Okay, so include, we already know, include which will include some other resources into our JSP, and page directive is something which is a little bigger concept in the sense bigger. There's so many ways you can use this page directive, so that is the reason you'll have many examples. And then include directive will be used to include a JSP page or a HTML page inside your JSP, so that at the time of translation of JSP into servlet, that part will also get executed and you will get a perfect JSP. I mean, and the reason is we don't, okay, for example, if there is a footer class and you want to use it in a JSP, how would you do that? You include that using the solution. You include, one thing is you can place footer everywhere you are using that, and the other way is you can include that JSP, footer.jsp or HTML, using include directive in your JSP. Then your task is done. So in these three ways you can use directives. So the first one is page directive. Let's see what page directive is. The page directive defines attributes that apply to an entire JSP page. So it is like a behavior that the page directive is going to apply to the whole page, and attributes are predefined ones and the values are also predefined. So let's go and look what is there. Okay, the page directives are nothing but import, content type, extends, info, buffer, language. Each let's say if is EL ignored, out of flash, session, page encoding, error page, is error page. Okay, so these are the page directives that are available in JSP technology. So out of which you are going to use is depending on the situation. So for example, if you want to include a JSP file or a HTML file in your JSP, then you use import page directive. Or if you want to make any particular JSP, for example, any one JSP itself as an exception, then you have to use this page directive mentioning is error page true. Once you make is error page true, that will be called whenever there is any exception. You can configure it like that. Okay, so that is error page. So, and after that, you have extends, and extends is a little funny because from JSP you can extend Java classes also. Okay, if you have the dot class file, but we generally won't have it because we'll have a dot class file after the JSP is rendered and deployed in any server. Okay, so that is one thing. And session, auto flash, there's so many page directives. We'll look at the page directives now. Page directives. Okay, so now if you come here, you're using a page directive saying buffer 16 KB. I mean, buffer in the sense you set the response size that you want to get in buffer. I mean, this is less 16 KB. I agree, but all you use buffer is to increase the size so that whatever new input data that is coming or the data that is coming from the server will be rendered and shown. If it is not efficient or sufficient, it will show an error message because it is not able to get all the next results. Okay, so that is with the buffer. And import page directive, I've told that if you want to include anything into your JSP file, could be HTML, JSP, or any API also, you can do that using the import tag with the help of Java util and the expression language. Okay, expression language is equal to this, you can say the scripted tag. Okay. Next is error page. So I've told you that if you want to set the whole content or the whole JSP as an error page, what you have to do is you have to use the is error page directive, make it true, and then the whole page will be able to convert into an exception JSP. we have some more here. The input attribute is to input the class interface or all the members of packages to input keyword in Java interface. So it is straightforward, like an input in Java. So the content type is something which we discussed yesterday, that we need to give text HTML or just text or text slash some other thing. Okay, so and the main reason that we use the semi type is, for example, we get images, we get videos as response. So in order to, if we get an Excel file as response, so in order to make that happen, you can use the content type and you set the value to it, and then we are good to use content type. Okay, and then after that is error page. Error page attribute is used to define the error page. If exception occurs, the current page, it will be redirected to the error page. So error page does not do anything. It is it just show you the error. So do you want me to stop here so that we can continue tomorrow, or do you want me to continue? What would be your choice?
Stop.
Yeah, you can stop here.
Sorry, voice is not audible.
Maybe we can continue tomorrow. We can continue tomorrow. We'll try to practice it until here.
Yeah, sure. I'll send you this examples. I mean, the whole examples I'll send, and the PPT also. So if you don't understand anything, you can ask me tomorrow.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.